In this episode of Growing Your Sense of Self Through Self-Defense, I'm going to talk about the source of our personal morality. The dictionary definition of morality is the set of principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad behavior. So each of us has a personal morality. From the saintliest person or most noble person to the mass murderer, the serial rapist, the tyrant, we each have personal morality. Now, to say which morality, some moralities are better than others, well, then you need a standard to measure that against. And throughout history, people have, philosophers and whatever, have come up with ideas about what that standard for morality, a good morality, could be. So we've had things like the greatest good for the greatest number. But that's not a measurable quantity, and it doesn't talk about, how do you offset some negatives, like it's torturing than killing an innocent person. If it provides a good benefit for a lot of others, is that a moral thing to do? There's the do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But people may not want the same things done to them, so therefore maybe they think of a masochist, a person who he actually wants people to mistreat them based on how they see themselves, what they think they deserve. So does that mean that person should be somebody who inflicts agony or a sadist on other people because that's what he wants them to do to them? We look at religion for morality, moral principles. But then which religion and which holy text or written text, which interpreters of those texts? Every religion has had its history that involved, now we look and say, that was unjust war. And every religion has participated in that. Up to this day, there's still such wars that go on and are acts of terror. We could look at an individual and say there's a moral person who acts in enlightened self-interest. Well, how many people have such level of enlightenment that their self-interest incorporates the interest of others? Because we are social animals, and that would be part of it. We have this sense, we commonly have this sense that, well, we know what's right and what's wrong. Maybe we don't always do it, but we tend to think we have an idea about it. So, and it incorporates concern about others. So we look at something and say, like, stealing is bad because you're negatively impacting others, and being generous to others is a good. Okay, if we press that a little bit, is taking from, stealing from people who have plenty to generously give to others, maybe ourselves, a good. Is taking from, stealing from people who don't deserve it, didn't earn it, have plenty, or maybe they're bad people, and taking from them is a good thing. Is that okay? Is stealing food to prevent starvation okay? Are these cases where stealing is okay? Or killing? Killing another person is bad. Well, what about killing in self-defense? What about killing someone who wants to die because they don't like the particular state that they're in? Maybe ongoing physical pain, maybe it's emotional pain, maybe it's mental pain, and they want it ended. Is capital punishment okay? Is killing somebody who is not threatening to kill you, but every time you interact with them, they bring you to the state that it's almost you want to die? Is that enough of a threat that warrants it being okay to kill that person? Not proposing answers to all of these. The point I'm trying to press is that simple principles, or even more complex principles to say here's from which a good moral system can flow, can never be comprehensive enough to apply in all the cases that can arise. It's like a body of law. You still need interpreters, judges, or to say, well, really what is meant by, or how it applies in this case, that morality ends up, one's moral judgments end up being personal things. And you can't point at something else and say, well, it's flowing directly from that. Well, it's flowing maybe from that through you and interpretations. So this comes down to making judgments. I talked about in episode C-17, the necessity of being able to judge, and making judgments, or recognizing the necessity of that. It's a good thing to judge. It's a necessary thing, so therefore it's a good thing. So we find ourselves in situations where we have to make choices that have a moral component. So we're making a moral judgment. We make those kinds of judgments. We might judge ourselves later on. Other people might judge us based on the choice that we made. We see other people making choices that have a moral component, and we can judge rightly or accurately or not by our own standards how good that moral choice was that that person made. So it's not so much the principles. I like the notion of enlightened self-interest because that puts it on the individual. It's a recognition of morality ends up being a personal choice, and it's hard to find a standard that you're going to be able to say, yeah, that was a good one or not. There's various things that feed into it. And what is it that can help us determine whether or not it ends up being a good choice? In a previous episode, I talked about health and its strong correlation to the sense of self. That a positive health strongly correlates to a strong sense of self. That those things are tightly related. And I will claim that's the same case for what one might call a good morality with a strong sense of self. And it's not surprising because a strong sense of self is strong self-love, strong self-esteem. And from that relationship, that positive relationship one has with oneself, all other relationships flows. So if that's a healthy, strong relationship, then the relationships that you have with others are healthy and strong. And it would be expected that with that type of personal attitude about self and others, that good, what could be seen as good moral choices would flow. And conversely, a person with a low sense of self who neither loves or esteems himself, and all our relationships flow from that, so it's hard for them to love and esteem others or to accept love and esteem from others. And from them, one might expect poor or unhealthy moral choices would be made. Now in the last episode, a previous episode, I did talk about, give the traits of a person with a strong sense of self. So this time I'm going to sort of flip it and give the traits of a person with a low sense of self, characteristics of a person with a low sense of self. And I'm going to go the super case again, where this is a person who embodies all of the low attributes of, attributes of a low sense of self person. And I would like you to think about, as I'm going through this list of traits, is this somebody you would think would make good moral choices or not? How a person with a low sense of self feels about themselves. They have a general sense of unhappiness, malaise. They feel they are a victim and largely powerless. They are afraid to look foolish and they can't laugh at themselves. They are afraid of forming their own opinion and having it challenged. They see disagreements as personal attacks and they'll seek revenge. They're prone to rapid and sudden anger or sadness. And they seek to suppress what they consider bad emotions, the anger and the sadness and fear, because they're afraid they may become all-consuming. Regarding how they think about themselves, they tend towards negative attitudes and pessimism. They lack self-confidence. They are rigid in their ways. They are blind to unpleasant realities. They can delude themselves, fool themselves. They are heavily dependent on others, on other things, and they are unable to accept criticism. How they present themselves to others. They're secretive, they exaggerate, they pretend, they tell falsehoods, they're arrogant and boastful to try to appear self-confident, fool others, or they're extremely shy to avoid inspection from others. Cool, detached, aloof. That's the way to try to look in control when they have a sense of being out of control. They will use language for its emotive value to persuade others. And I'm going to go back to this in a few minutes. They'll seek first for others to connect with them emotionally. They deny they make mistakes, and they'll blame others when things for which they did go poorly. They take credit when other people have positive achievements. They're non-rational. They will break agreements and violate what they claim to be their moral standards and appear to be hypocritical. They perform poorly under pressure. The way they perceive others is through projection. They look at their own inadequacies and motives and they'll say those are theirs as well. They see others, as they see themselves, as impotent victims and members of victim groups. They're jealous and envious of others who they see or perceive as having a strong sense of self. They fear or are hostile towards others, blaming them for their own inner state. In their relationship with themselves, they don't seek self-improvement because that acknowledges that there's something lacking. They lack self-discipline. They're closed-minded. They tend to have addictions because these let you escape from an unpleasant internal reality. They have difficulty making commitments. In their relationship with others, they're drawn to those with a low sense of self. So by comparison, they don't feel even more less than. They have difficulty loving others, not loving themselves. They seek power and control over others to compensate for a lack of a sense of power and control in their own lives. They can be outwardly aggressive or passively aggressive. And they will cut you off, toss you under the bus when you become a personal liability. So a person with that set of characteristics, if you were thinking about, is this a person whose moral judgments I would trust? I think it's pretty clear that's not a person that you would consider to be, you expect to make good moral choices. They're operating out of scarcity and self-absorption, and the likelihood is they're going to make choices that are not only not in the best interest of others, but not in their own best interest. It's unenlightened self-interest. Now, I wanted to talk back on that point about the use of language to make emotional connections. So that's a trait of a person with a low sense of self, and it's one that you'll see commonly. So if I'm in that state, when I'm using words, I'm trying to say what I think you want to hear, and I don't care about truth value. What I care about is making an emotional connection, getting your support, getting your acceptance, getting your esteem and love that I don't give myself. So I'll say what it is that you might want to hear. So I'll say things from the moral perspective. Yeah, this is bad, that's good. This is a good thing to do, that's a bad thing to do, blah, blah, blah. I don't have to live that way. I didn't mean it. What I was meaning to do was get you to connect with me emotionally. So you can see, I mean, most people, they'll have times when they don't act according to their professed morality. Right? I say stealing's bad, but I did take that thing. All right, and then you make some excuse for why. But in this case, with person with a low sense of self, when they're saying those words, they didn't really mean them. So it's not like they're violating anything. There's no notion of being a hypocrite. If I didn't mean what I was saying, I'm just kidding. And I'm not acting like I'm not just kidding about it. But I want you to think I'm meaning it. But I don't. So when I say something's the case, I don't really mean it. So I'm not telling you lies or falsehoods. Because all I was doing was using my words to get you to emotionally connect with me. So a person with a low sense of self, their morality, their moral standard, their moral basis is very shifting because they're not getting their needs met, right? The very hungry person, that's the one who's going to steal up to avoid starvation. And it's okay to steal in that case. It's okay to do this, it's okay to do that, because I'm not getting my needs met. And my need for acceptance or esteem and love of others, because it's blocked because I don't give them to myself, carries more weight than what it is that I say or what it is that actually that I do outside of that. I'm trying to get my needs met, and it is sort of acting out of desperation. And I can't be expected to have a high moral standard under those conditions, although I wouldn't acknowledge that. So I hope this brings home the point that the strength of the sense of self correlates to the strength of a personal morality, the goodness of a personal morality. That these two things go together, just as this holistic health and a strong sense of self go together. So as you grow your sense of self, you not only grow the relationship you have with yourself better, and the relationship, therefore, you have with others healthier. You grow healthier in a holistic sense, and you grow a stronger or more positive morality as you grow your sense of self. Thank you for your time. Till next time, kamsahamnida. Toodles.